Joining me now to discuss retired Marine intelligence officer and host of the Strat podcast, Hal Kempfer. Hal, great to see you again. Welcome.
Great to see you, Hannah.
Let's listen to what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says about talks to Iran. I'll talk to you right after.
His ultimate goal and the ultimate objective is to ensure that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. The president believes in diplomacy, direct talks, talking directly in the same room in order to achieve that goal. But he's made it very clear to the Iranians, and his national security team will as well, that all options are on the table, and Iran has a choice to make. You can agree to President Trump's demand, or there will be all hell to pay.
Hal, negotiations take years. How realistic is it that President Trump's 2-month deadline is sustainable, that it could happen?
Hannah, this is a high-pressure negotiation stance, if you will. It's it's got to be done within 2 months, and of course, you had the meeting today. Lots of discussion about where would this go, and what came out of it was that they basically, the big agreement was that they're going to meet next Saturday in order to have another meeting. So there wasn't a whole lot, although it did go for a couple of hours. However, it was a shuttle thing. They were going, the Omani foreign minister was going back and forth between the two parties. So you didn't see that classic handshake thing between, Iranian foreign minister Araghchi and of course, Steve Witkoff. And that may come next week. But 2 months, that's a really short amount of time, and there's a lot that has to be worked out. And by the way, these are very complex issues. They're not something you can just jump right into.
Can I ask you about the discrepancy in the language used? What do you make of the U.S. calling the talks direct, Iran calling them indirect? Why is that important?
Well, I think we're saying direct because we went to Oman and they were there, physically located or co-located. For Iran, it's important politically, particularly for Ayatollah Khomeini, who's been opposed to with the U.S. Directly or in this fashion indirectly for some time, to maintain the facade that they're not talking directly to the U.S. And the truth is, they're talking to the Omanis, and then the Omanis come and talk to us, and we talk to the Omanis, and then they go talk to the Iranians. So one could say that both sides are. Nobody's, falsely presenting this, but both direct and indirect kind of work in how you define the negotiations themselves.
What are the chances of a broader regional war if the U.S. or Israel attacks Iranian nuclear targets? We know that's something that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has wanted for some time. He was visiting with President Trump on Monday over the last week. How prepared is the U.S. for escalation in the Middle East right now, currently?
I think it's significant. We just put a second carrier force in the region, ostensibly mostly to focus on the Houthis, but they're there in the region. We've got 6 B-2 bombers. That's a big thing. The logistics trail of putting a B-2 stealth bomber is considerable. They have to have these, kind of call them hermetically sealed hangars, but they have these environmentally controlled hangar systems. They have this just enormous maintenance capability they have to bring in, and they're putting it in Diego Garcia, someplace I used to be stationed in uniform way back when. It's a very tough climate, shall we say, a lot of salt air, a lot of heat. So they have those there. They have some unusual capabilities beyond just the stealth themselves. This is very significant. Plus F-35s in the region, Patriot missile batteries have been deployed. You're not going to see boots on the ground, but you could see us backing up a very significant Israeli airstrike and going after those new.
And we've heard President Trump say there would be hell to pay. If an interim agreement is reached, what would it look like?
That's what everybody's kind of wondering. It's interesting. When we pulled out of the JCPOA, which was the agreement under the Obama administration, the criticism that we kind of repeated, that the Israelis said, hey, look, it doesn't do anything about the ballistic missile threat on, just like it has been. Of course, there's something proxy threat, certainly since October 7th, the October. Yes, the proxy threat was a big thing that was not addressed.
We're having some issues with your audio, but thank you so much. I always appreciate the insight, and I say it every time. Thank you for your service. Retired Marine intelligence officer Hal Kempfer. Thank you again.
Thank you, Hannah.
And on the other side, news.